Pregnant Sophia's point of joyous anticipation now stands beneath a darker cloud. Doctors warn that complications have placed her in real peril, and every tick of the clock draws her a step closer to a delivery that could cost her life. It is against this stark backdrop, one family grieving a beloved patriarch, another bracing for the unthinkable, that yesterday's events unfold. Casseroles arrive, tears flow, and old friends link arms, yet every shared embrace carries an undertone of dread. Salem knows how to mourn, it has done so many times before. But as the town squares its shoulders for John's memorial, whispers of Sophia's precarious condition ripple through side conversations and worried glances, reminding us that death is not done claiming its due. In Salem, joy and loss have always walked hand in hand. But rarely has the looming specter been this personal, this immediate, and this merciless. At just 18, Sophia found herself facing a life-altering decision. Pregnant and determined to give her unborn child a better future through adoption, she stood at a crossroads that would test her courage and her family's bonds. But as her due date loomed, a hospital tour meant to bring hope turned into a moment of unimaginable tragedy, leaving her loved ones grappling with grief and an agonizing question: would her baby survive? Sophia's journey began months ago when she sat across from Melinda Trask, a seasoned lawyer with a sharp mind and a shadowed past, at the Brady pub. The air was thick with tension as Sophia, her dark eyes resolute, explained her plan to place her baby for adoption. She spoke with a quiet strength, assuring Melinda that the baby's father supported her choice. But her mother, Amy Choi, was a storm of opposition. Amy burst into the conversation, her voice trembling with anger and fear, declaring, "Like hell you are," to Sophia's adoption plan. For Amy, the thought of losing her grandchild was unbearable, a wound too deep to fathom. Yet Melinda, with her own scars from a teenage pregnancy, shared a story that would linger in Amy's heart. At 17, Melinda had given up her daughter, Haley, to her parents, only to lose her years later to tragedy. Her words, raw and heartfelt, urged Amy not to let this decision tear her daughter away. "Don't lose her over this," Melinda pleaded. And for a moment, Amy's defenses wavered, her love for Sophia shining through her tears. As the weeks passed, Sophia's due date drew near, and the Choi family faced the reality of her pregnancy head-on. Tate, a close friend and confidant, joined Sophia and Amy for a tour of Salem University Hospital's birthing facilities. The hospital, with its sterile white walls and soft hum of activity, was meant to be a place of preparation, a step toward welcoming new life. Sophia walked slowly, her hand resting on her swollen belly, her mind racing with thoughts of her baby's future. Amy, still wrestling with her feelings about adoption, clutched a pamphlet about birthing suites, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. Tate, ever protective, stayed close, his youthful optimism tempered by the weight of the moment. They moved through the labor and delivery ward, past rooms where new mothers cradled their newborns, each step a reminder of the life Sophia was preparing to bring into the world and give away. But fate, as it so often does in Salem, had other plans. As the trio paused in a quiet hallway, Sophia suddenly gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Her face paled, and before anyone could react, she collapsed, her body crumpling to the cold hospital floor. Amy's scream echoed through the ward as Tate dropped to his knees, frantically calling for help. Nurses and doctors rushed to Sophia's side, their voices a blur of urgency. "She's not breathing," one shouted as they worked to revive her. Amy clung to Tate, sobbing, her earlier objections to adoption forgotten in the face of this nightmare. Minutes felt like hours, but the truth was devastating. Sophia, vibrant and full of dreams just moments before, was gone. A rare and sudden complication, the doctors later explained, had stolen her life in an instant, leaving her family shattered and her baby's fate hanging in the balance. The hospital, now a place of sorrow, became a battleground for Sophia's unborn child. The medical team, led by a determined neonatal specialist, worked tirelessly to save the baby. Sophia, still connected to life-sustaining machines, was kept alive in a desperate bid to give her child a chance. Amy, her heart breaking with every passing second, sat by her daughter's bedside, whispering prayers and apologies. "I just wanted you to be happy," she murmured, her voice choked with regret. Tate, grappling with his own grief, stood vigil, his youthful face etched with a pain no one his age should bear. The doctors, their faces grim, explained that the baby, a boy, was at risk due to the trauma of Sophia's collapse. Fluid on the brain, they said, could mean a lifetime of challenges if he survived at all. He may be blind, may not walk, may not survive, one doctor warned, and Amy's sobs grew louder, the weight of those words crushing her spirit. In the days that followed, the hospital became a place of quiet hope and unbearable tension. Amy, once so opposed to adoption, began to see Sophia's choice in a new light. Melinda's story echoed in her mind, a reminder that sometimes love means letting go. She met with Melinda again, this time in a hospital chapel, where candlelight flickered against stained glass. Sophia wanted her baby to have a life she couldn't give, Amy said, her voice steady despite her tears. Melinda, her own eyes glistening, nodded. She was brave, Amy, and you can honor her by trusting her choice. Tate, too, found himself reflecting on Sophia's strength, wondering if he could find the courage to support her final wish, even as he mourned her loss. The baby, still unnamed, fought for life in the neonatal intensive care unit, his tiny body surrounded by monitors and tubes. Each beep of the machines was a fragile thread of hope, a reminder that Sophia's legacy might endure. Amy and Tate took turns sitting by his incubator, their hands pressed against the glass, willing him to grow stronger. The hospital staff, moved by the family's tragedy, offered gentle support, their expertise a lifeline in the darkness. Yet, the question lingered, would he survive? The doctors could offer no guarantees, only the promise to do everything in their power. Amy, her heart now open to adoption, began to imagine a future where Sophia's son might find a loving home, just as she had wanted. You'll have a family, she whispered to the baby, her voice a vow to honor her daughter's dream. As Salem mourned Sophia, her story became a beacon of love and sacrifice. The hospital tour, meant to prepare for a new beginning, had instead marked the end of a young life, but it also sparked a transformation in those she left behind. Amy's journey from resistance to acceptance was a testament to a mother's love, reshaped by loss and hope. Tate, forever changed, carried Sophia's memory as a call to live with courage. And Melinda, whose own past mirrored Sophia's choice, found purpose in guiding the family through their grief. The baby's fate remained uncertain, but in the quiet of the NICU, where life hung in the balance, there was a sense that Sophia's spirit lingered, watching over her son. In the coming weeks, the people of Salem would hold their breath, praying for a miracle. Would Sophia's baby defy the odds, emerging from this tragedy to live the life she dreamed for him? Or would the shadow of loss claim another piece of their hearts? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain. Sophia's love, fierce and selfless, would never fade, a light that even death could not extinguish. A wedding amidst grief. Love and loss in Salem, in the quiet town of Salem, where joy and sorrow weave through the lives of its residents like threads in a tapestry, the promise of a wedding brought a flicker of hope to a family shadowed by grief. For Paul Narita and Andrew Donovan, two men whose love had blossomed against all odds, the dream of a shared future was a beacon in the darkness. But as they planned their union, the weight of loss, particularly the heroic sacrifice of Paul's father, John Black, threatened to dim their joy. For their family and friends, especially those over 65 who had seen Salem's cycles of triumph and tragedy, this was a story of resilience, love, and the courage to celebrate life even in the face of heartbreak. It began in a modest Salem cafe, where Andrew sat across from Paul, whose eyes were red from tears he could no longer hold back. The news of John Black's death, a man who had lived as a hero for the ISA, had shattered Paul. Andrew, his heart aching for his fiancée, reached for Paul's hand, offering silent comfort. Just this once, Paul whispered, his voice breaking, I wish my dad wasn't a hero. I wish he was just here. The words hung heavy, a son's longing for a father who had given everything to protect others. Andrew, whose own father, Shane Donovan, had walked a similar path as an ISA super spy, understood the cost of such bravery. He squeezed Paul's hand, promising they would face this grief together. Their conversation soon turned to their wedding, a day they had envisioned as a celebration of their love, planned for soon after John's expected release from a dangerous mission. Now, with John gone, the idea of a wedding felt like a distant dream. Yet, as they spoke, their love rekindled a spark of hope. They imagined a simple ceremony, surrounded by family, with vows that would honor the sacrifices of those they held dear. We'll make it special, Andrew said softly. For us and for him. Paul nodded, a faint smile breaking through his sorrow, as they clung to the idea of a future built on love. Later that day, they met Will Horton and Carrie Brady at the town square, where the autumn leaves swirled in a gentle breeze. Carrie, ever the romantic, smiled warmly at the couple. Who would have thought, she mused, her voice tinged with wonder, that the two sons of ISS super spies Shane Donovan and John Black would one day fall madly in love? Her words were a reminder of the extraordinary paths that had led Paul and Andrew to each other. Will, standing beside her, chuckled, adding, "It's like something out of a Salem love story." The moment was light, a brief respite from grief as the four shared stories of their family's adventures and the love that had always anchored them. But the weight of their loss returned when they gathered at the penthouse, the heart of the Black family's home. Paul, standing by the fireplace where photos of John and Marlena smiled down, spoke quietly. "We're thinking of postponing the wedding," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. "It doesn't feel right, not now." Andrew nodded, supportive but torn, knowing how much the wedding meant to them both. The room fell silent, the air thick with shared sorrow, until Marlena Evans, the family's matriarch, stepped forward. At 70, Marlena carried the wisdom of a life filled with love and loss, her presence a steadying force. "What this family needs right now," she declared, her voice firm yet warm, "is a celebration of love." Her eyes, bright with determination, met Paul's. "Your father would want you to live, to love, to be happy. Don't let this tragedy steal that from you." Marlena's words were a lifeline, pulling Paul and Andrew back from the edge of despair. She spoke of John's courage, his belief in love as the greatest strength, and how a wedding would honor his legacy. "Let's do it here, in Salem, before you leave," she urged, her hands clasping theirs. "Let it be a day of joy, a testament to the love that binds us all." Paul, moved by her passion, felt his resolve strengthen. "In honor of my father," he said, his voice steady for the first time that day, "we'll get married." Andrew's smile was radiant, and the room filled with a cautious optimism as plans for a swift but heartfelt wedding began to take shape. Across town, another scene of love and loss unfolded, one that would forever mark Salem's history. Hope Brady, radiant with joy, stood in the hospital room where her beloved beau had returned after years apart. Their reunion was a miracle, a moment of pure happiness that seemed to defy the pain of the past. Hope's laughter filled the room as she held Beau's hand, their love as fierce as ever. But as the celebration quieted, Sean, her son, lingered by her side, his face etched with a grief he could barely voice. Alone with his mother, he summoned the courage to speak the words that would break her heart. "Mom," he began, his voice trembling, "John's gone. He didn't make it." The room seemed to still, Hope's smile fading as the truth sank in. Her joy, so bright moments before, crumbled into sorrow, and she clung to Sean, their shared grief a silent bond. In her final moments, as her strength waned, Hope's thoughts were of Beau, John, and the love that had defined her life, a love that would endure beyond the veil. Back at the penthouse, the wedding preparations moved forward with a quiet urgency. Marlena, ever the organizer, enlisted Carrie and Will to help plan a ceremony that would reflect Paul and Andrew's love while honoring John's memory. The Salem Inn's garden, with its blooming roses and soft lantern light, was chosen as the venue, a place where John had once proposed to Marlena. The guest list was small but meaningful, filled with faces who had weathered Salem's storms alongside the Black and Donovan families. As the day approached, Paul and Andrew found solace in each other, their vows taking shape as promises not just to one another, but to the legacy of those they had lost. The wedding day dawned with a crisp autumn clarity, the sky a brilliant blue that seemed to carry John's spirit. Paul, in a tailored suit, stood at the altar, his heart full of both love and longing. Andrew, his eyes shining with devotion, took his place beside him, their hands entwined. Marlena, officiating, spoke of love's power to heal, her words a balm to the gathered mourners. "Today," she said, "we celebrate Paul and Andrew, whose love reminds us that even in our darkest moments, there is light." The vows were simple but profound, each word a tribute to their journey and to John's sacrifice. When they exchanged rings, a soft breeze stirred the roses, and many swore they felt John's presence, watching over his son with pride. The reception, held under a canopy of twinkling lights, was a blend of tears and laughter. Carrie raised a toast, her voice breaking as she spoke of John's heroism and Paul's strength. Will, ever the storyteller, shared a memory of John's mischievous grin, bringing smiles to tear-streaked faces. Amy and Tate, friends of the family, attended their own recent losses, drawing them closer to the Black family's grief. For those over 65, like Marlena and her peers, the wedding was a reminder of life's fragility and the importance of cherishing every moment. They watched Paul and Andrew dance, their love a beacon of hope, and felt the weight of John's absence tempered by the joy of new beginnings. In the weeks that followed, Salem carried the memory of the wedding as a symbol of resilience. Paul and Andrew, now husbands, began their life together, their love a testament to the strength they drew from John's legacy. Marlena, though grieving, found purpose in supporting her family, her heart buoyed by the love she had witnessed. And Hope's passing, so closely tied to John's, left a void in Salem. But her reunion with Beau in her final moments was a story told with reverence, a reminder that love transcends even death. For the residents of Salem, especially those who had lived long enough to see its many chapters, the wedding of Paul and Andrew was more than a ceremony. It was a celebration of life, a defiance of sorrow, and a promise to carry forward the love that John, Hope, and so many others had left behind. As the autumn leaves fell, Salem stood united, ready to face whatever came next, with love as their greatest strength.